You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, where we share topics that will inspire business growth and help you stay ahead of advances in technology before they become mainstream. This episode is sponsored by Ingram Micro Xvantage, the game-changing platform that will transform your business potential and reshape how customers see you. Our next B2B Tech Talk guest, Darren Gottesman. Darren is Executive Director in U.S. SMB Sales, Partner Communities, and Customer Experience at Ingram Micro. Darren is partner obsessed and leads his teams to put Ingram Micro partners at the center of all they do. His success has led to the expansion of his role, now covering both the SMB Alliance as well as the TrustX Alliance communities and customer experience strategy. Our guest host is PR executive Marie Rourke. Marie is the CEO of White Fox PR and has years of experience and expertise serving the channel. Now let's dig in.
All right, Darren, we are here at GCIS. We are in the podcast room. Tell me, what's going on? There's so much energy in the room. You're here to talk communities?
It is. So, we're here to talk about communities. The two of us have been working together in communities for a long time.
We have.
I now have the responsibility of both communities, which is an honor.
So the SMB Alliance and
SMB Alliance, TrustX Alliance, both are going in an amazing direction. And we just got done with the TrustX Alliance Awards. We're going to meet up with the SMB Alliance members later, and everything's going great.
Awesome. And I know we've been doing this for a while, for a minute, and you've always come at this with a couple of themes and a really philosophy that's just grounded in a lot of heart. And I want to talk about that because there is a lot of sports energy. There's a lot of come around the campfire energy that we've had over the years. You know, get closer to your customers, get closer to the partners, and make it about the relationship. So just touch base on your philosophy because I think it's so current for the conversations that we're having today.
Well, thank you. And I'm hoping that we could use our chat here, internal, talk to the associates at Ingram Micro, because to have a technology company and companies, plural, and all of our vendor partners getting together in a community, and it seems very natural, but almost interesting to say, okay, what do you mean by the word community within such a technology sphere? But it's just about learning, and it's about how do you learn? And for me, it's always been about listening and going through the human experience. And I sit with you, I look at your expressions, we have interaction, we share, and I walk away and I understand it. Now, if you were to send me an email, if I had to read something or just study my own, I can't ask questions. I'm not really learning the way that I want to learn. And it's not just me. It's I use the analogy of music. You know, we could all sit home and listen to music on many different forms. I'm a CD guy. But, why do people go to concerts? They want to feel the energy of a band. They want to experience something different. And then they leave and they're forever touched by that moment. And people always remember their first concert, or they remember, going with certain friends. Well, same with education and same with sharing and learning. At the end of the day, we're creating these two different groups that are helping each other to succeed and to grow their own companies and ambitions. And it just seems very natural, but it also seems very effective. And I feel as if this is the best way to interact in a world that's going much more digital. What about the human interaction? What about getting off of the blue screens and having get-togethers and experiences and journeys? And it means a lot to me. That feels best to me. I've been doing this now for 27 years, and my conversations that I remember are the ones that are in person. 7 more than got to beat?
Got me beat by a little bit.
I'm flexing my veteranism. So, so that's, it comes from basically what feels good.
Yeah.
And that's what feels good. And now I get a chance to orchestrate. I have a lot of great people I work with. Kelly Sander, Kelly Wisharath, Holly Najelski, Bill Peterson. These are all master connectors in their own right. And we're doing it together. You've been included since day one on a lot of these areas. And it's fun.
Well, what I always love about it is when we sit with the partners and you're talking to them and you're listening to them, they're sharing conversations about best practices. They're sharing conversations about customers and how do I, make the right choices about what are the right customers.
Right.
And I remember a breakfast with Bob Bell where he was ranting about this is what makes a good customer. And he's sitting across 3 other people. And I know decisions were made when they went home and they went back to the ranch and they took that playbook home with them.
I agree.
And it's priceless in a lot of ways.
By stopping your day-to-day for a moment and having real conversations out of the office and talking about your business from a different perspective, it seems to always make sense. It's always very natural. So for instance, right now, everyone has friends in their worlds. And how many people have stopped and said, you know what? These individuals aren't truly friends and they're kind of zapping my energy and they're not necessarily rooting for me. How many folks take an inventory of that and say, you know what, I'm going to limit my time or eliminate my time with those individuals? That seems like a very healthy thing to do as a person, but what about as a business? Like you just mentioned. So Bob just did that exercise as a partner, as a business owner. And when you hear someone else that does it, it empowers you. You say, you know what, why haven't I done that? And so a lot of that, why haven't I done that? Or that's a good idea. When you hear it happening from somebody else in these community settings, you do go back to the office from what I understand, and even for my own business, and you make decisions and you feel empowered to say, you know what, if that person could do it, I should do it, or I could do it.
There's a calm that comes with that, right? And there's a confidence that comes with that when you're talking amongst your peers, and you've always done a really good job of taking away some of the, unnecessaries, if you will, and just putting a lot of the heart and a lot of the energy into the communities to make it about them. Like this isn't about Ingram Micro. It's not about us. It's really about them and what do they get out of this, relationship that they have with us.
I agree.
How can we enable that more?
We always use the term ecosystem, right? Everybody has to win in this ecosystem, and it basically feeds each other, which is a nice analogy. But going back to what you just said about the encouragement, for those out there that have ever been on a high dive and how scary it is the first time you go up that ladder. And I remember going up there and then going back down, and like maybe you need like a big brother just to say you could do it. And then that was all you needed, was somebody's kind of vote of confidence. And you got back up there and you did your pencil and your cannonball. But the encouragement comes as a built-in part of the communities. And look, everybody is confident to a degree and everybody has great ideas, but sometimes you do need a little bit of a push. And when folks are rooting for you, it feels good, right?
Yeah, well, they challenge each other though. I've seen it, firsthand.
Yeah.
Whether they challenge each other in business or they challenge each other personally, they get to know each other to where they push and they say, look, I know you have this in you and I know you can make these decisions. And I think that's part of the community that goes unnoticed, at times.
I agree. I think about this in life. Think about for those of us that are fortunate enough to have a best friend. Like, what does that best friend do for you in your life, right? They listen and they support and they add love, they add energy, wisdom to your everyday life. When you own a business, from what I've been told, from all of our members, it gets very lonely because you're making decisions by yourself and you're not going to vent to your employees. So then who is your confidant? And folks that are in our communities, they can't get over how supportive the groups are and how much they get from the groups, and they can't believe that they haven't been involved earlier. And a lot of them will say, well, I always thought this was my competition. And then they say, I only compete against myself. But you almost have this fear of, I'm going to share my ideas, it's going to basically be used against me. But our customers are customers, and you only compete against yourself the same way that your relationships in life are your relationships. And you don't compete against other relationships, you only compete against your own relationship with that individual. So it's, again, I think it mirrors your own life, but in a business setting. And it feels great.
Well, and you've always said, and I know I have like a picture that I took of you years ago and I put across, I'm not going to bring up the picture. It's all good. But it's a great picture of you, fully branded, doing Darren, right? Totally about S&B Alliance. And you said to me, it's a team sport. It has to be about the team, and it has to be about this community, and it has to be about them and the collective we. And I always think of Moneyball, right? Putting all the right players in the right spots at the right time. And we've done that with these communities, and it's really made a big difference on how they can gain their profits, where they can find, where they can find their way, what they can find their specializations.
I agree with that. And I would have to say a special shout out goes to the council members. There's always a nucleus in any team sport, folks that are really kind of connecting to others. And by bringing the right people into these communities, into the council from the communities, it makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. And those folks always will have a special spot in our heart, because what they're doing is they're expanding energy past their own self to bring other folks in. And that takes a lot. It takes a special person to reach out and say, hey, I want to include you. And that's another part of this conversation is inclusion. And we're really discussing like the human experience and feeling included in life in any aspect, as a child, as an athlete, as a family member. What does that do? It makes you feel great. It makes you feel part of something. And once you feel a part of something as a person, you do go all out. And then you do take this step where it's not about me anymore. It's about the team. And then ultimately you put the team before yourself, which is the whole experience. And there's a difference between an individual sport and a team sport, right? And your team sport is you're doing for the team. And when you have groups the size that we have, 300-person team that's putting the team in front of themselves and including everybody, the vendor partners, the Ingram associates, the reseller partners, it becomes very special and very satisfying too.
Does. And I think just even looking around in this little bubble that we're in here, we can see everybody outside. There's a lot of people who brought multiple members, right, of their same team, of their team. They brought them in because they've found this energy and they love this energy. And they brought them in and said, look, I'm going to bring my salesperson. I'm going to bring my marketing person. I'm going to bring, I'm going to bring my ops person so they can start mixing with other people.
I agree.
Because that's what Ingram Micro's brought to them and has helped them with their business. And these communities have been essential. So talk a little bit about the expansion maybe of that, philosophy of bringing everybody around the campfire and bringing everybody closer so they can learn from each other.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So we have seen the business owners start bringing in other roles in their company because they want to show off what this is. And at first they might say, you know what, I don't want to take so-and-so out of the office because this person's billable or this person's too important. And then when they get here, they realize that by allowing someone to network with other people and bounce ideas of other people, and then they listen in and hear conversations or hear opinions that they weren't aware of, they say, I never thought that you felt that way. But you have to give people space to grow. And that's another part of it is giving somebody space to go outside of just their immediate relationship to have new relationships. What does that do for that individual? And if you truly care about that person that works for you or that person that works for you, with you, then you give that space and you allow that person to come back and say, you know what? I just learned this, or I shared this, or I have a new connection, or I have a new sounding board. And again, it's that human experience. It's the network. That's what the community is all about. And I don't know too many other places in business that have these large communities that we have that Ingram has set up. And I know for a fact that every time we have these events, people leave and I get messages that was amazing. I thought of something so clearly. I made new connections. We're going to have this conversation next Tuesday or so forth. So the energy overload that happens at the end of these things was just amazing.
Yeah, well, the clarity and the confidence that they get from coming to these events, I think it's really inspiring to them. And that's what we're here to do at GCIS this week. So it's been great. Anything else, anything future outlook you want to talk about really quick before we close up, wrap it up?
I do. I'll just say a few things. I'll say that we're always listening to our partners. We're always trying to create new formats of interactions, of connecting. We always want to strive for everybody to feel included in the conversation. And what's funny is sometimes the people that are the most shy become the biggest chatterboxes at the end of this. So it is interesting seeing the experience of just feeling the warmth and the inclusion. And then from there, we're talking business part of the time, but we're talking about life. We're talking about connections. We're talking about, all ways to be successful as a person, as a business owner. And it's a magical moment when it happens for those folks that haven't experienced it. But, I can't wait to include them.
It's fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Ingram Micro's B2B Tech Talk. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode and you want to continue the conversation online, use hashtag B2B Tech Talk.